The sky broke open that night. It wasn't thunder, and it wasn't a plane. It was louder, faster, and hotter than anything the small forest town had heard before. A fireball tore across the clouds, lighting up the dark like a second sun. Then came the explosion, shaking the trees and every window in the valley. Ethan Cole sat up straight in his old trailer, heart pounding. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The wind smelled of smoke and heat. Something had crashed, something big, and it wasn't from this earth. Ethan had seen strange things before. He served in 3 wars and saw what governments tried to hide. But this was different. Something told him this was no satellite. He took his rifle and drove his rusted Jeep toward, the glow rising beyond the trees. The forest road was rough, but he knew it by heart. He followed the smoke until the trees ended, and there it was. A silver ship, broken in 2, half buried in the dirt. Its surface was smooth, glowing with strange patterns. Blue mist hissed from cracks in the metal, and sparks danced in the air. Ethan's boots crunched on burned leaves as he stepped closer. He held his breath, waiting for movement, for life. Then he saw her. She stumbled out from the wreckage, barefoot, trembling, covered in dust. Her skin was pale lavender, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Her eyes were silver, no whites. No pupils, just shining metal, and she wore only a torn, shimmering bikini. It looked like it was meant for space travel, or maybe it was all that survived. She looked at Ethan, her lips parting, but no words came out. She collapsed to her knees, breathing fast. Not human, but not a monster either. She looked more scared than he was. Ethan dropped his rifle and raised his hands. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't understand his words, but his voice calmed her. She looked up, blinking slowly. He took off his jacket and stepped closer, wrapping it around her. She flinched at first, but didn't pull away. Then he heard branches cracking behind him. It's not from animals, from boots. Ethan grabbed the girl and pulled her behind the wreck. He turned off his flashlight and crouched. 3 dark figures moved through the trees. They wore black armor with glowing red visors. No flags, no signs, just silence and weapons. One of them scanned the area with a strange device. Another held up a photo of her. They were looking for her. And they didn't look friendly. Ethan held his breath, his hand resting on the rifle. But the girl placed her hand over his, gently shaking her head. She didn't want violence. She just wanted to live. The soldiers passed by slowly, searching. They didn't find them this time, but they would come back, and next time, they might bring more. As the figures vanished into the woods, Ethan looked down at the alien girl. She was still shivering, her lips blue from cold and fear. Whatever world she came from, she was alone now, and for some reason, she had landed near him. He made a choice. In that moment, a big one, he lifted her up in his arms and whispered, "You crashed on the wrong planet, sweetheart. But you crashed near the right guy." He carried her to his Jeep and drove into the night. Away from the crash. Away from the danger. He didn't know what she was or why she came. But he knew one thing for sure. She didn't belong to them. Not anymore. And Ethan Cole wasn't going to let them take her back. The girl hadn't said a word, not one, but her eyes told a story. Silver and glowing like liquid metal, they stared at everything but never seemed to rest. She didn't cry, but her body shook with fear. Cold and something else, something deep. Ethan parked the Jeep behind his trailer. Hidden under the old camo tarp, he didn't turn on the lights. If those black armored men had drones, even one flicker might give them away. He carried her inside gently, laying her on the small couch. She was freezing, her lips turning pale. Ethan moved fast, lit the fireplace, grabbed a thick blanket, and made some hot tea. He placed the mug in her hands, and for a second she just stared at it. Then she copied him blue on it, sipped slowly, and finally looked up at him with a little nod. That small motion meant more than words. It meant she trusted him at least a little. "Name's Ethan," he said. Tapping his chest tune, she tilted her head like a confused cat, then slowly touched her own chest. "Lisa," she whispered. Voice soft and cracked like broken glass. Ethan blinked, surprised. "You can speak?" She shook her head. Just that one word, maybe learned long ago. But it was enough. Her name was Lissa, and she was real, not a dream, not a story reel. And here in his living room, Ethan handed her a pen and some paper. "Draw," he said. Hoping she'd understand, Lissa hesitated, then started sketching fast. Sharp lines with trembling hands, stars, planets, symbols he couldn't understand. Then she circled one Earth and drew a red X over it. His heart dropped. "What does that mean?" he whispered. "Is Earth dangerous?" She didn't answer, but her eyes, those silver-haunted eyes, answered for her. Yes. Then she drew a shape beside Earth, a triangle with sharp corners, a black mark across it. She tapped it twice, then touched her own chest. Ethan leaned closer. "Is that who's chasing you?" Lissa's hand started to shake. She grabbed his pen and scribbled a circle around the triangle, then drew smaller figures inside, cages. She was trying to show him something horrible. Before Ethan could ask more, the lights flickered. A soft buzz rang through the trailer walls. Lissa froze, eyes wide. Body pressed against the wall like a trapped animal. She pointed at the ceiling, then tapped her ear. They were listening. Someone was listening. Right now, Ethan jumped up, yanked, opened a drawer, and grabbed an old jammer from his army days. He switched it on, and the buzz stopped. Lissa collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. She covered her ears like a scared child. Ethan knelt beside her. "You're safe now," he whispered. "No one's hearing us anymore." But Lissa didn't look relieved. She looked worse. She lifted her hair in behind her ear. Under the skin, something glowed red. A tracker implanted. Deep, still blinking, Ethan clenched his fists. They weren't just tracking her. They were controlling her. Watching her every move, she hadn't escaped. Not really. She was still their prisoner. Lissa reached toward him slowly, placing her hand over his heart, and then pointed to her glowing implant. Then the knife on the table, Ethan shook his head. "No," he said. "I won't hurt you." But her eyes said something else. "You have to, or they'll find me outside." The wind howled, but it wasn't just wind. Something moved in the dark, a soft humming sound, the kind machines made. Ethan grabbed his rifle and peeked out the window. Nothing yet, but it wouldn't be long. He turned back to Lissa. She was holding the knife now. Offering it to him with shaking hands, she nodded once, then closed her eyes. Ethan's breath caught. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a fight, and it had already started. He took the knife. His hands trembling, then gently said, "We'll get it out, but I'm not leaving a scar." The silence after pain is the worst kind. Lissa lay on the floor, breathing hard. Her hands clenched the couch fabric, her body twitching from shock. The small implant now removed lay on the metal tray beside her. It blinked one last time, then went dark. Ethan had done it. He cut it out carefully, using every bit of skill he had. No screams, no blood spray, just one quiet tear from her silver eye. She hadn't cried before, not when her ship crashed, not even when they were hunted. But now, she did. Because for the first time, she was free. Ethan dropped the knife, covered the tray, turned off all lights. They had one chance to disappear, and he knew they were out of time. Outside, something buzzed overhead. Not a helicopter, not a drone. Humans made, it hovered like a ghost above the trees, invisible to the eye, but the sound gave it away. A low, steady hum like a sleeping machine breathing in the sky. Lissa's eyes opened wide. She sat up, ignoring the pain, and pointed toward the closet. Ethan helped her crawl inside and covered her with a pile of his old jackets. Then he grabbed his rifle, stepped out on the porch, and waited. The woods were too quiet. No wind, no crickets, no life, only cold breath in the air and the deep feeling that someone was watching. Then came the click metal boots stepping on dry leaves. Ethan moved fast, back inside, shutting the door without a sound. He looked through the peephole. One figure, black armor, red visor, walking directly toward the trailer. No badge, no name, just a weapon in hand and eyes that glowed like a machine. The figure stopped at the door, then knocked once. Ethan didn't answer. Another knock. This time slower, like a warning. And then the voice came, mechanical, deep, to calm. Unit 713, it said. We know she is inside. Ethan didn't move. His finger tightened on the rifle, but he didn't shoot. Not yet. We do not want to harm you, the voice continued. Just the subject. Lissa whimpered from the closet. Ethan stepped back and whispered, You're not giving her up. Remember that? Silence. Then the door handle turned locked, but something beeped outside. They were trying to override it. Ethan moved quickly, flipped a switch behind the fridge. A hidden hatch under the kitchen table slid open, revealing a narrow crawl space. He ran to Lissa, pulled her out of the closet, and helped her inside. Stay quiet, he whispered. If I don't come back, run. Her hand caught his arm, tight. She shook her head fast. She didn't want to be alone again. I'll be fine, he said. I promise. The door burst open, smoke poured in, red lights flashing. Ethan rolled behind the couch, rifle aimed. The armored figure stepped inside, scanning slowly. Subject is not visible, said voice cold. Begin thermal sweep. Ethan fired, one shot straight into the machine's chest. It stumbled back, sparks flying, not dead, but stunned. He sprinted forward, tackled it hard, and slammed its head into the wall. The helmet cracked, revealing part of a face human, but wrong. Too pale, too wired, like it had been rebuilt. Half human, half machine. More footsteps echoed outside. 3. More units coming. Ethan grabbed the fallen helmet, shut the door, jumped into the crawl space with Lissa. He sealed the hatch above them just as the second knock came harder this time. Down in the dark, Lissa gripped his arm. Her lips moved silently, mouthing a word he didn't understand, but her eyes said everything. Fear, hope, and something more, a memory. She pointed to her wrist and tapped 3 times, then held up 3 fingers. Ethan watched closely as a faint light glowed from her skin. A small map appeared, flickering in mid-erp, projected from under her skin. A star chart, their current location blinking red. But far away, near a mountain ridge, a blue light pulsed gently. Ethan whispered, What's that? Lissa tapped the glowing point, then drew a circle in the air. Her voice finally came through, soft and raspy. Safe, outside. The front door broke open again. Boots slammed into the floorboards. Machines searched room by room, but under them, hidden in shadow, a human and an alien planned their escape. They were no longer just running, they were hunted. Asterisk, they stayed underground until the footsteps faded. The machines above searched, scanned, and whispered through broken voices. But they never found the hatch. They never found her. When it was safe, Ethan pushed the trapdoor open slowly. Smoke still hung in the air, and the trailer was wrecked. Walls cracked, dishes shattered, glass on the floor, but they were alive. And that meant they still had a chance. Lissa sat against the wall, breathing slow. Her silver eyes watched the ceiling like she expected it to collapse again. Then she turned to Ethan and reached for his hand. She wasn't shaking anymore, not this time. With her fingers, she drew 3 lines in the dust on the floor, then tapped her chest, then the ceiling, then earth. What does it mean? Ethan asked softly. You came here from somewhere, didn't you? She nodded. Then she placed her hand on her neck and pulled something out from under her skin. A small chip, hidden beneath a thin layer of flesh. She held it up, glowing faintly, and tapped it twice. A flash filled the room. A hologram burst into the air, spinning slowly. It showed a tall building made of black glass, floating in space above a red planet. Inside, cells, machines, tanks full of liquid, and people, no creatures, locked inside them. Lissa pointed to one of the tanks. It showed her eyes closed. Wires connected to her head and chest. A prisoner. A test subject. Ethan stared in silence. Who did this to you? He whispered. She drew the same triangle again, the symbol she had shown him before. She pointed to its base, where hundreds of small lights blinked, each one a life, each one like her. She wasn't the only one. But something went wrong. She swiped her hand across the hologram, and the image changed. The base exploded in flames. Alarms flashing, one by one. The lights went out, except one. Lissa, she escaped when the base lost control, and now. They were trying to clean up the mess. Ethan sat down beside her, his voice rough. So you weren't just in that ship. You were running from them. She nodded, then tapped the chip again. Another image appeared, this time of Earth maps. Locations, data. She pointed to a small base near the mountains. Control, she said slowly. Kill switch. Signal. End me. Ethan's heart stopped. They can. End you. Just by sending a signal. She nodded again. That implant cut from her neck wasn't the only thing. They could still find her, still stop her heart, unless they reached the control base and destroyed the signal source. Ethan stood up, pacing. Then we're going. There, he said. We shut it down, and this ends. Lissa looked at him carefully. Her fingers brushed the scar on his arm where he had been cut during the fight. She pressed her forehead to his, gently for a moment. They said nothing. No words, no fear. Just a shared promise. One human, one alien. Facing something far bigger than both of them, suddenly, the power in the trailer cut out. Everything went dark. Ethan reached for his flashlight, but Lissa raised. Her hand, her fingers glowed softly, casting light into the room. Her body shimmered faintly with blue lines like wires under her skin. He stared at her, confused. What are you? He asked quietly. She looked at her hands like they didn't belong to her. Then said one word, broken but clear, failed. Ethan's heart sank. You're not a failure. He said you survived. They're scared of you. She looked up. And this time, her eyes weren't silver. They were glowing gold. Alive. Powerful. Angry they made you, Ethan said slowly. But they don't own you. Outside, another drone flew overhead. This one faster. They didn't know about the chip being removed, but they knew she was close. Time was running out. They had to reach that base. Before her heart stopped. Before her body shut down. Before her past caught up and erased the future they hadn't even started yet. They came just before dawn. Not with sirens, not with shouting. They came with silence, like ghosts, like they had done this before, many times. Ethan and Lissa were already on the move. They'd packed only what they needed, food, ammo, medkits. And the chip, the one Lissa had pulled from under her skin, she kept it close like it was part of her, because without it, they wouldn't know what the enemy planned next. They traveled through the back roads, away from cameras, away from cities. Ethan's jeep bounced over rough trails as they neared the mountain ridge. That's where the map had pointed, a hidden signal base buried under the hills. The place that could end her life with one command, but the enemy wasn't waiting. They were hunting. Just before reaching the canyon trail, a strange buzzing echoed through the trees. Not one drone this time, four, flying in tight formation. Blinking red, scanning everything, Ethan pulled over fast and killed the engine. He and Lissa hid under a tarp. Holding their breath, the drones circled once, then shot off into the sky. But they dropped something. Small spheres, metal bugs that rolled across the ground, then stopped and listened. Lissa's skin lit up slightly, glowing blue at her wrist. She shook her head fast and mouthed a word, EMP. Ethan understood. He reached into the glove box, grabbed a grenade the size of a soda can, his old war tech, pushed the dial to red, then threw it into the clearing. Boom, a flash of light, no fire, just a wave that snapped every machine around. The metal bugs exploded, the drones fell like dead birds, crashing into trees. For a second, silence, then a scream, not human. Something in the trees roared in pain and charged. It wasn't a soldier, it was a tracker beast, built from muscle and metal. Eyes glowing, legs too long for any natural creature, claws that tore into the earth as it ran. Ethan yelled, "Go get to the rocks!" He stood his ground, rifle raised, firing shot after shot. Bullets tore pieces from the beast, but it didn't stop, not until Lissa turned. Raised both hands and screamed. Not a sound but a pulse, a wave of energy shot from her, blue and gold. The beast hit it, midair, and froze. Its legs locked, its eyes cracked. Its body twitched like lightning struck it. Then it fell, dead. Lissa collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Ethan ran to her, pulling her up. You did that, he whispered. You stopped it. She shook her head. Not enough. She pointed to the mountain ridge in the distance. The others, she said, they come. Ethan looked across the sky, 3 dots growing larger. Ships, real ones, not drones, not beasts. These were fast, silent, and deadly. He checked his watch. 30 minutes to reach the signal base. After that, they'd either destroy it or die trying. They jumped back in the Jeep and drove fast. The mountain road twisted like a snake, cliffs on both sides, but Ethan knew the path. He had trained on it during secret missions years ago. As they neared the gate to the hidden base, they saw it. A figure standing alone in the middle of the road. Human, tall, in black uniform, face covered by a smooth helmet. He raised his hand calmly. Ethan Cole, he said through the speaker. Return the subject, and you walk away. Ethan slowed the Jeep. His eyes scanned the sides, 2 more soldiers hidden in the rocks, snipers waiting beside him. Lissa whispered. Not soldiers. She tapped her temple. Clones. The man stepped closer. She belongs to us, he said coldly. She's property. Ethan stepped out of the Jeep, rifle down but ready. She's not a thing, he growled. She's someone. The man paused, then said, she was built to carry something greater. Her body was a vessel, but she failed. That word again, failed. Lissa stepped beside Ethan, her eyes glowing gold again. No, she said. Her voice shook the air. I chose, and in that second, the first ship above them fired, but Lissa raised her hands and the sky answered. Asterisk, the sky wasn't quiet anymore. It screamed. The first shot from the enemy ship tore through the ridge. Rocks exploded, trees caught fire, and the ground shook like it wanted to split apart. Ethan grabbed Lissa's hand and pulled her behind the Jeep. Debris fell like rain, hot and sharp. The black-armored clone who blocked the road was gonna nothing left but a melted boot. More ships came through the clouds, sleek, silent, and shaped like knives. Each one marked with the same black triangle they weren't here to capture. They were here to erase. Lissa's eyes turned bright gold again. She reached out, palm toward the sky, and a strange field of light wrapped around them. The next blast hit, but the energy bent around her shield, cracking the earth but leaving them alive. Ethan stared at her, breathing hard. Can you hold it? She shook her head. Not long. Then she pointed past the burning road. A tunnel half buried, hidden by bushes and rocks. The base, she said, below. Ethan didn't wait. He jumped in the Jeep and drove straight through the flames. Branches snapped. Fire scorched the sides, but the tunnel stayed clear. They reached a steel door, rusted, but still locked. Ethan grabbed a plasma torch from the back and cut through the hinges. Sparks flew. The door fell, and they slipped into the dark. Inside, the walls were cold metal, smooth and quiet, flickering. Lights above, dead screens, long abandoned halls. But Lissa moved like she had been there before. She followed a path down, deeper and deeper. Past warning signs and hazard markers. Here, she whispered, signal core. The room at the bottom was large and circular, in the center a tower of glowing lights. Pulsing red like a heartbeat, machines hummed around it, powered by alien cores and human wiring. This, she said, this is where they control us. Ethan stared at it. You mean others like you? She nodded. They send pain, death, commands, shut it down. We're free. But nothing was ever that easy. As Ethan approached the core, the lights blinked faster. A voice echoed from hidden speakers. Unauthorized access. Self-destruct. Sequence activated. Ethan cursed under his breath, of course. The countdown appeared. 5 minutes. They had that much time to shut it down before the whole place turned into ash. Lissa rushed to the side panel, pulling wires, hands moving. Fast, Ethan covered the door with his rifle, knowing the clones wouldn't be far behind. Can you stop it? He asked. Lissa didn't answer. She was sweating, eyes focused. Fingers glowing slightly as she interfaced with the system. Then she said one word. Maybe. Outside the door, footsteps, 3 shadows, weapons ready. Ethan shot first. One went down. The others scattered. But they kept coming almost. Lissa shouted, her voice shaking. Ethan held the doorway, heart racing. Bullets and plasma bolts lit up the hallway. His shoulder took a hit burning, but he stayed on his feet. Lissa screamed. Her body lit up like a star, blue and gold energy. Shooting from her hands into the core, it screamed, back-grinding, cracking, then exploding in a shockwave of light. The lights shut off, the machines died, and the countdown vanished. Silence. The clones outside fell to the ground, twitching, then went still. Like puppets with their strings cut, Lissa dropped to her knees, gasping. Her skin faded back to lavender, eyes dimming. But she was alive. Ethan ran to her, holding her tight. "You did it," he whispered. "You stopped them." She looked up at him, her voice small. No more chains. Then the base shook again, this time from above. More ships, more fire. The enemy knew they lost control. Now they wanted revenge? "We have to go," Ethan said. He helped her up. And they ran through a different tunnel, one she had shown on the map earlier. A service escape, forgotten, buried, safe for now. When they reached the exit, the air outside was cold and clear. Smoke filled the sky, but the stars still shined above them. Lissa looked up, for the first time, without fear. The signal was dead, but the war wasn't over, not yet. The night sky was still burning, but Lissa stood taller now. The base was gone, the signal core destroyed, and the chains that once bound her mind and body had shattered like glass. She was free, truly free, but freedom came with a cost. Ethan's arm was wrapped in cloth, bleeding slow from the last battle. His steps were heavy, but he kept walking beside her through the mountain path. They had escaped the fire, but not the war above them. The enemy ships circled like vultures, not sure where to strike, not sure who still lived. Lissa stopped at the cliff's edge. She raised her hand to the stars and tapped a glowing mark on her wrist. A beam of light shot into the sky, a signal, her signal, but it didn't call for help. It called for truth. Moments later, the clouds split open again, but not with enemy. Fire. This time, another ship descended, sleek, silver, smooth like glass. No weapons shown, no signs of war. It hovered above them, silent and steady, then lowered a ramp. Lissa turned to Ethan. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she placed her hand over his heart, then looked into his eyes. "I go," she whispered, "only if you come." Ethan blinked, surprised. "You want me up there?" She nodded slowly. "I tell them, I show them. Human helped me. Not weapon, not enemy, friend." Ethan looked up at the ship. The wind brushed past his face. He had never planned to leave Earth, never imagined the stars would be part of his story. But then again, he never imagined meeting her either. He took a step forward, then another, then reached for her hand, her fingers laced into his, strong and sure, together. They walked up the ramp. The ship hummed around them, lights soft and warm. Inside were others, aliens like Lissa, but different. Some had scales, some had wings. But all of them turned and stared, and none of them aimed a weapon. Lissa stood at the center and spoke in her own tongue. The others listened, then looked at Ethan. One stepped forward, a tall being with golden skin and 6 eyes. He reached out and placed a glowing crystal in Lissa's hand. She turned and offered it to Ethan. "What is it?" he asked. "Key," she said. "To my world." Suddenly, alarms blared. One of the alien crew shouted something in a deep, echoing voice. A screen showed the enemy ships turning, locking in on their location. They were preparing for one final strike. Lissa looked at Ethan. "No more hiding," she said. "We show them. We're not afraid." Ethan grinned. "Even through the pain, I like your style." Lissa stepped onto the control pad. Her body lit up again, gold and blue and silver all at once. She connected directly to the ship, and it responded. Engines roared. Shields rose. Weapons hidden until now slid out of the sleek hull. The enemy fired first, but this time, Lissa didn't flinch. She moved with purpose, guiding the ship like it was an extension of her soul. She dodged blasts, returned fire, and flew through the enemy line like light through darkness. Ethan held on, watching her, not as a weapon, not as an alien, but as someone becoming what she was meant to be. A leader, a protector, more than a creation, a person. The last enemy ship fell in flames. The sky grew quiet, and the stars returned. In the calm that followed, Lissa turned back to him, eyes soft now, golden glow fading. Home? She asked. Ethan looked around at her, at the crew, at the stars beyond. Then he smiled. Wherever you are, that's home. The ship turned toward a new direction, far from Earth, far from war. Toward a sky she chose, and a future they would build together.